Okay, I want to point out some of the features of the new Nikon Z mirrorless. These images are linked thanks to Nokishita. So let's take a look at some of the images and go over the details. Right over here we actually have a diopter control, a knurled diopter control. That's interesting for Nikon because it's certainly quite prominent. Here at the top of the EVF, this is a eye sensor. It actually detects when your eye is or is not present up against the back of the EVF. Here we have one of the command dials, the actual program. Here you can see it: shutter, aperture priority, manual, and customization 1, 2, 3. And here we have auto mode. Anyway, right here, this little button should be, there's really no possibility of it being something different. A selection for the EVF like there is on the Fujifilm that lets you choose whether there is a display on the LCD versus the electronic viewfinder only. To save power where both the EVF and the LCD are off, and it only turns on when it senses your eye is up next to the EVF, or LCD only, like for doing product photography or macro photography. So that would be what this little button here is. A lot of people are confused. They said, well, I see a rear command dial. Well, that's not a rear command dial. Here we're looking at the back side. That's not the command dial. Let's show you what a command dial looks like. Here we have a command dial. This is where only a small portion of the dial is visible. This would be a front command dial. Unfortunately, this Fujifilm new mirrorless camera does not have a rear command dial. What you're seeing here is not a rear command dial, and I can tell you with basic 100% certainty why this dial has no lettering or images on it. Is a customizable, I don't know what Nikon's going to call it, but it is a customizable dial. In other words, you could set this when you actually roll your thumb against the back of this dial to choose your aperture or your shutter speed or exposure comp. In other words, you could program it like, say, a finger swipe on the back of the touch screen to set this, or in the menu. I have no idea why they stuck the damn menu button right there, but that absolutely sucks. To set this dial to be whatever it is you choose it to be, depending on your shooting style. There's no denying that because there's no markings on this dial. That means it's the customizable dial. Here we actually have the I button, same as on current Nikon. Here we have the rocker wheel, the OK button. Menu button is in the wrong place. This is actually also autofocus point selection, or selectable for a zoom area when previewing an image, i.e. the joystick, of course. Here we have the display button on the back for displaying the image for a live view. Obviously, same thing on current Nikon's camera and movie button. Right here we actually have the speaker on the top of the camera. Also too, the ISO dial, exposure comp is right here, and a record button for movie is right here. This little display is called an ink display. It goes by a couple other names. It is always on, and the same as on a Fuji, and it basically consumes next to no power at all. A lot of people are not close listeners. I referred to this as a douche dial, and that's exactly what it is. The really cheap type has icons on it, like a flower or a running person, so on and so forth. This is an extremely lame dial. They should have gone with a 4-button selector and a sub dial. A sub dial sits directly underneath the primary dial. Like on a Fuji, for example, you'd actually have a dial up here and then another dial underneath it. So we have one dial with two completely different functions, but this is overtly simplistic in the extreme. There's a lot of empty real estate right here on the camera, which is wasted. This dial, the ink display, the ink display on the new Nikon Z mirrorless is definitely and undeniably cheesy. So, but no, this camera does not have a rear command dial. This is a front command dial, but this is not a command dial. This is a programmable dial that lets you pick whatever you want. There's no rear command dial present on this camera. However, there certainly is the possibility of Nikon could have included that, but they did not. They certainly did not. Obviously, we have an autofocus on button, plus or minus to zoom in or zoom out, either in live view or for image review. Self-timer mode button. Obviously, these would be programmable also too for white balance. So that's really it. What was the other image underneath here? Yeah, back to the EVF. I don't know what the relative size of this is. It looks smaller than the huge EVF as found on XT2 and GFX, but we'll see when that comes out. As you can see, there is no sub-dials on these two top-mounted dials, both here and here. There are no sub-dials. People were confused when I said sub-dials. They were thinking I was referring to this, but no, that is a command dial. Specifically, it is a front command dial. So there's some specifics about the new Nikon Z mirrorless cameras. Thanks to Nokishita for these image leaks on the new Nikon Z mirrorless, and thank you so much for watching. Peace out, Girl Scout.